called in Vedic language the Brahma Bandhu, is calculated to be on the level of Sudras and women. Thus in the Bhagavatam, we find that Mahabharata was specifically compiled by Vyas for Sri Sudra Brahma Bandhu. Sri means women. Shudra means the lower class of civilized society. And Brahma Bandhu means persons who are born in the family of Brahmanas, but do not follow the rules and regulations carefully. All of these three classes are called less intelligent. They have no access to the study of the natives, which are specifically meant for persons who have acquired the rabbinical qualifications. This restriction is based not upon any sectarian distinction, but upon qualification. Vedic literature cannot be understood unless one has developed the Brahminical qualifications. It is regrettable, therefore, that persons who have no Brahminical qualifications and have never been trained under a bona fide spiritual master, nevertheless comment on Vedic literatures like the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas, where such persons cannot deliver the real message. Ruchi was considered a first-class Brahmin. Therefore, he is mentioned here as Brahma Gartasvi, one who has full prowess in Brahminical strength. So, can I read the translation? Can I read it all together? 1, 2, 3. Ruchi, who is very powerful in his Brahminical qualifications and was one son and one daughter and his wife Puti. Everybody please chant Sri Prabhupada. Krishna Kasaya Bhujale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati, Gaurani Pracharane, Nirvise Shashunivadi, Asatudana Satarane, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Radha Avatar, Sri Rasa Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. So of course this Ruchi, great sage, this great personality, was not someone recently So it's quite interesting how we hear about these incredible personalities, male and female, and somehow we think we should be like them. However, what does that even mean when you consider he's coming from an era when people live thousands and thousands of years, the sages will be meditating 10,000 years or more in the forest. We can't even sit down for 5 minutes and chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Yuga Dharma for before our mind takes off and zips into some other valley. And not only that, this point that he executed the brahminical duties very rigidly. So that meant he was qualified. And what are those brahminical qualifications? And it's mentioned here, the number one is control of the senses. Control of the mind, cleanliness within and without, development of spiritual and material qualities, simplicity, truthfulness, faith, and the supreme personality of Godhead. All of these things are part of what constitutes should not comment on Vedic literature like Srimad Bhagavatam and other others. Because such persons cannot deliver the real message. So Srila Prabhupada is a first-class Brahmin by qualification, and therefore his commentaries on the Bhagavatam, on the Bhagavad Gita, on the Srimad Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction, etc., are bona fide. They're bona fide because he's qualified by his activities. His activities which are 100% in alignment with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And as such, then it's explained such a person has full prowess, full strength, brahminical strength. So our very good fortune in this life is to have come into contact with His divine grace. All of us sitting here, whether directly or through His books, through His teachings, through His disciples, are considered fortunate. One time one devotee asked you, Prabhupada, what do you mean by our good fortune? He said, actually, you don't have any good fortune, but I've created your good fortune. So, we'll go back a few decades. Prabhupada had been living. He had come to the point, he had taken sannyas finally. He lived in Vrindavan, Radha Damodar temple, and he had completed the first canto in 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He had gotten the order from his spiritual master almost 40 years earlier to take this message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the West. But he wasn't ready on many fronts. But his vision was always set to go to the West. And now he had the 3rd volume and had managed to get it printed. So he felt, now I'm prepared. At first it seemed totally impossible that he could, like when he met Bhaktisiddhanta, he was a young man, just entered Grihastha ashram, had a child already. So it seemed like that was an obstacle. It seemed like an obstacle. But this obstacle, family life, not that family life has to be an obstacle, but in the case of Srila Prabhupada, it was an obstacle. I had asked him at one point, did you find it difficult to practice Krishna consciousness as a grihastha? I did. Now, at the time that I was asking him, had just arrived in England. It was like in November of '68. And for me personally, it was a huge struggle because I had a little baby. And because I had the baby, I was a designated stay-at-home cook, shopper, laundry person, shopping person. So it was really difficult. And we didn't have our own facility. We were here and there, scrambled up. We were living in places that didn't even have a place to shower. We had to go outside on the street and go to a public bathhouse, pay some money to get a proper bath. We were living in warehouses, So, that was my obstacle. I was finding things difficult, and I had the first little set of deities of Juggernaut with me. Unfortunately, little did I realize the importance and value of that little set of Juggernaut deities. Sometimes people ask me about them. I'll quickly mention that I gave them to the son of Surab, who was the architecture for the temple in Vrindavan and Juhu. That little boy was being sent from India to America to go to Gurukul, and guess where? Here in Vrindavan. And I was thinking, he's going to be feeling so lonely. Who will he know there? And out of a spontaneous gesture, I gave him a small set of Jagannath deities because I had noticed he had some interest in them. So somehow those deities ended up in Vrindavan, but nobody had any idea of their significance. And then the letter from Srila Prabhupada came where it said that the children under 10 years old shouldn't have deities. You don't know how to carefully handle them, take care of them. And so all the little kids that had little deities, all the deities were removed by the leader. And no offense to the leader, he did Prabhupada. In the letter, you can read it. So after that, no idea where they went, no idea what happened to them. Anyway, Prabhupada told me that as a Gehastra, yes, he did have difficulty. So I briefly explained my difficulty, but his difficulty must be different. He said, my family would not assist me. Therefore, I had to give up their company, I had to leave them. And this wasn't like an automatic switchover. He had tried for decades, just didn't get the reciprocation. And he understood deep within his heart that he had a huge mission to accomplish, and he was becoming older and older. So he had been asked many times